Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Welcome to the second series of the consumer behavior notes from Dr. Farid Ismail for FSM 4502. Now, earlier today we have discussed on the basic concept of consumer behavior, the definitions, the context that we are talking about. And I also have mentioned to you guys one crucial element of this particular if I may share with you guys. Okay, I've discussed with you guys on the consumer behavior with the first learning outcome, which is learning explain the reason marketers require uh, a thorough understanding of consumer behavior and its major influences. So that is what we have discussed in the first part of this lecture. Now, in this lecture, what we like to do is I did mention in the first part of this video, in the first series, about the consumer decision process, which I mentioned to you guys on regards to what are the component we need to understand at what stage of the continuum of decision process that the consumers are doing uh, the consumers are doing the at which part of the continuum that we would like to understand the consumer behavior. So these are actually what I mean by such thing. Yeah, what I mean by consumer decision process is either want and need. Okay, need or problem, search information. We will explain about this section afterwards towards the end of this lecture. And these are some of the factors that influence the decision process of the consumers. Either it is individual consumers or organizational or group decisional. Okay, so that one we will discuss towards the end. If you can see that the last part of our learning outcome is only explain general steps in consumer decision making process. So we will discuss on that towards the end. But at this moment of time, we would like to identify the major group factors that influence consumer behavior. Now let's continue about that. Okay. So in general, there are in general what affect consumer behavior. Um, hold on, not that one. All right. In general, there are three categories. Okay, there are three categories of factors that influence consumer behavior. One is what we call as personal factors. Personal factors reflects on individual interests and opinions can be influenced by demographics such as age, gender, and culture. Culture can be further discussed at later stage. Yeah? Secondly, it can be effects by the psychological factors. What does it mean? It means an individual response to a marketing message depends on their perceptions and attitudes. What is perception and attitudes? We will look into that. Yeah. And last but not least, the factors, the categories that affects the decision of a consumer behavior is the social factors such as the influence by family, friends, education level, social media, and whatnot. Okay, so these are the three general grouping or categories of factors affecting the consumer behavior. So let's just, if you look into this particular, the theory that I mentioned to you earlier, okay, I did mention that personal factors, psychological and social factors. But this in this diagram, to help us understand much easier, I differentiate them into three dimensions. One is what we call as situational. secondly is a group, and third is the individual. Okay, now what is situational? So the three dimension that I've grouped for this particular session is the first one is the situational, secondly is the group, and the third one is the individual. To exemplify the factors influencing consumer behavior, or rather to say the major group factors that influence consumer behavior. Now let us look into the first part, the situational. What does the situational reflect? Um, all right. If you can see that the principle, there are five items that I put under situational factors. One is physical, social, time, motivational, and mood. So let's go for the first one, physical. Physical is reflecting on the characteristics of the location in which the purchase decision is made. For instance, fashion retailers should install flattering lightings in the fitting rooms. That will influence how the consumer make up their decisions, right? So in other words, situational is reflecting on what is the current situation or the current environmental situation that could what calls that could influence the users or the consumers to um, make their decision either to buy or not to buy such thing. Okay. Or in other words, situational influences is reflecting on the circumstances consumers find themselves in when making purchasing decisions. Uh, some circumstances prompt purchasing decision. For instance, a person who find themselves with a headache will often respond by purchasing Nurofen, Panadols, and etc. etc. So, in other words, situational influences can also prompt people to decide not to make purchase. For example, a couple who decide at last minute to go to their favorite restaurant for a romantic candlelight dinner may change their minds if they see that part of the dining area is being renovated. So, in these instances, there are five dimensions under the situational factors that we should reflect on. One is physical. Secondly, is social, interactions with others at the time of purchase decision. Asking your partner how you look in the pair of jeans, or decisions. Is it in the instance of the couple just now for the candlelight dinner, when they reach the place is closed, so they decide and either to go or not to go. Okay, and the third dimension is time. Time available for purchase decision. A person who has left all their Christmas shopping until Christmas Eve may not have the time to contemplate many options. So there might be different needs for those people at that particular situation. And the fourth one is motivational, the reasons for the purchase. Okay. And last but not least is mood. The mood of person at the time of purchase decision might be differ from one customer to another consumer. For instance, a person in a tired or emotional state may make more impulsive decision. Keputusan yang ataupun decision yang tiba-tiba. Yeah? So these are the five characteristics that we have under the dimension of situational factors influencing consumer behavior. Next, we'll talk about the group and also the individual factors affecting the consumer behavior. So please stay on to the next video that I will post on my channel. Thank you, and see you guys in the third video of consumer behavior.